The Syrian army's role during the Syrian civil war, which began in 2011, is often scrutinized for its shifting allegiances and the reasons it fought for or against the regime of Bashar al-Assad. While a significant portion of the military remained loyal to Assad, there were instances of defections and divisions. Understanding why some soldiers did not actively fight for Assad requires an exploration of the complex dynamics of loyalty, institutional structure, sectarianism, and external pressures within Syria during the conflict. The Syrian military, like many Middle Eastern armies, was deeply intertwined with the ruling regime. It was designed less as a national defense force and more as a tool to maintain internal control and safeguard the Assad family's grip on power. Key positions in the army were filled predominantly by Alawites, Assad's sectarian minority group, to ensure loyalty. Conversely, Sunni Muslims, who formed the majority of Syria's population, were often relegated to lower ranks or sidelined, creating discontent within the ranks. As protests escalated into a full-blown civil war, this structural imbalance led to widespread disenfranchisement among Sunni soldiers. Many Sunnis viewed the army as an instrument of oppression rather than a national institution, contributing to a lack of motivation to fight for Assad. These soldiers were more likely to defect or refuse orders, especially when asked to suppress civilian demonstrations or attack Sunni-majority towns. Syria's sectarian landscape played a significant role in the loyalty dynamics of the army. The Alawite minority, to which the Assad family belongs, felt existentially threatened by the predominantly Sunni uprising. For many Alawites in the military, fighting for Assad was synonymous with fighting for their survival. However, for Sunni soldiers, the narrative was starkly different. The regime's actions, targeting Sunni-majority areas with indiscriminate bombings and brutal crackdowns, alienated many Sunni officers and conscripts. Low morale further exacerbated the issue. Soldiers who were compelled to turn their weapons on fellow citizens often found themselves at odds with the regime's justification for its actions. Reports of mass desertions and defections were common, as soldiers either joined opposition forces or fled the conflict entirely. Another significant factor was the army's logistical and economic challenges. The protracted nature of the war placed immense strain on the military's resources. Soldiers were often underpaid, poorly supplied, and subjected to grueling conditions. Many conscripts were reluctant to risk their lives for a regime they felt little attachment to, especially as the conflict became increasingly bloody and brutal. These challenges were compounded by corruption within the military hierarchy. While high-ranking officers loyal to Assad were often well compensated and shielded from the worst conditions, lower-ranking soldiers bore the brunt of the fighting. This disparity fostered resentment and further eroded the willingness to fight for the regime. The Syrian civil war became a proxy conflict, with various international actors supporting different factions. The opposition was bolstered by external funding, arms, and training from countries like Turkey, Saudi Arabia, and Qatar, making defection to opposition forces a viable option for disillusioned soldiers. Additionally, the rise of the Free Syrian Army, FSA, and other opposition groups provided an alternative for those who wished to fight against the regime while distancing themselves from extremist factions. On the other hand, Assad's reliance on external allies like Iran and Russia played a crucial role in maintaining his regime's survival. However, the presence of foreign fighters and militias, such as Hezbollah, meant that the regime increasingly outsourced its fighting, further diminishing the Syrian army's role and relevance. The reasons behind some soldiers' unwillingness to fight for Assad stem from a combination of sectarian divides, institutional flaws, and individual disillusionment. While the Syrian military was nominally loyal to Assad, these internal fractures and external pressures created a complex battlefield where not all soldiers were willing to sacrifice themselves for the regime. Understanding this dynamic is essential to grasping the broader nature of the Syrian civil war and the regime's survival strategies.